The night was burning. Flames rose from a wrecked car on the highway, painting the sky with smoke. Emma crawled across the asphalt, her palms torn, her breath broken. Strapped to her back, her baby whimpered. She whispered, "Hold on, I've got you." Just minutes earlier, she had been in that car with Adrian, the man she thought she could trust. His words still echoed in her head. "You're nothing but a problem. I'll end this tonight." Then the crash. Then the fire. He left her there to die. Emma had survived. But survival felt like a curse. Adrian had already framed her, spreading lies that she was reckless and unstable. By the time she reached the hospital, the story was sealed. The police believed him. Her friends turned away. She was labeled dangerous, unfit to raise her child. Lying in the hospital bed, Emma stared at the ceiling in silence. Her body ached with stitches, but her heart hurt more. No one came. No one defended her. Adrian's version of the truth ruled everything, but Emma refused to vanish. She clung to her son and whispered a vow. "I'll come back. I'll take everything you tried to steal." Months passed. She worked the jobs nobody wanted. Cleaning, waiting tables, hauling crates. At night, when her son slept, she studied. Business, finance, contracts, anything that could help her climb. Every coin she saved, every lesson she learned was a weapon for the future. Adrian had money and influence. He thought that was enough to erase her. But Emma carried something he could never touch, her will to rise again. The night of the fire was not her ending. It was the spark. One day he would see her again, not as the broken woman he left behind, but as the force standing above him, and when that day came, he would understand what it meant to be destroyed. Years passed. Emma's scars faded, but the memory of that night never left her. She moved to a different city with her son, started small and built carefully. She learned how to hide her past while shaping a new identity. Each setback only sharpened her focus. By 30, Emma had opened her first company. It wasn't glamorous, just a logistics firm in a rented office, but it grew fast. She led with precision, treating every deal like survival. Investors began to notice. Competitors underestimated her until they realized her strategies always cut deeper, faster, cleaner. Behind closed doors, she remembered Adrian. His name was like a wound that refused to close. She followed his moves in silence. She knew he was still powerful, still adored in the media, still untouchable, but she also knew his empire had cracks. Emma was patient. Revenge was not about speed. It was about timing. One evening, she stood on the balcony of her new headquarters, her son, now 10 years old, studying late inside. The city lights glowed below. She whispered, "We're close." Her assistant interrupted with a folder. A new acquisition target, a chain of companies linked to Adrian's empire. Emma opened it and smiled. The circle was closing. She bought quietly, piece by piece. Employees loyal to Adrian suddenly reported to her. Contracts shifted in her favor. She didn't attack head-on. She bled him slowly, until his grip began to weaken, without him even knowing who was behind it. But fate doesn't always wait. At a charity gala, Emma entered the hall in a black gown, calm and unshaken. Cameras flashed. Conversations hushed. And across the room, she saw him, Adrian, older, confident, glass of champagne in hand. His eyes swept the crowd and froze when they landed on her. For the first time in years, Emma looked directly at the man who had tried to kill her. His smile faltered. Her presence was a ghost made flesh. Emma didn't flinch. She raised her glass and held his gaze. The game had finally begun. Adrian set his glass down, but his hand trembled. He pushed through the crowd toward her, forcing a smile. "Emma, you're alive!" His voice cracked on the last word. She held her ground. "Surprised?" People nearby turned, curious, but she moved first, leading him to a quiet corner. The music drowned their words, yet the tension cut like a knife. "You were supposed to be—" He stopped himself, lowering his voice. "What do you want?" Emma leaned closer. "Everything you stole. Everything you built. I'll take it back." His jaw tightened. He tried to recover, tried to laugh, but fear flickered in his eyes. For years he had lived like a king, certain she was gone. Now she stood here not broken but powerful. The following weeks were war and silence. Adrian launched deals, Emma blocked them. He hired lawyers, she bought them out. His partners defected, his investors hesitated. Every move he made, she was already there, one step ahead. Behind closed doors, Adrian grew desperate. He called old contacts, spread new lies, even tried to charm her again. But Emma had built walls higher than his reach. She had learned his tricks, studied his arrogance, and turned it all against him. Still, she knew revenge was dangerous. He was cornered now, and a cornered man could strike. She doubled her security, kept her son close, never leaving him alone. She had lost once. She would not risk losing again. One night, as rain poured over the city, Emma sat in her office with the final documents. The last company Adrian controlled was collapsing into her hands. She closed the folder, feeling the weight of victory, but victory didn't taste sweet. It tasted sharp, heavy, unfinished. Her son knocked on the door and walked in, holding a sketchbook. "Mom," he said softly, "why do you always look sad even when you win?" Emma froze. She knelt, hugging him tight. For years she had fought for revenge, but in his words she heard the truth. This battle was never just about Adrian. It was about freedom, dignity, a future where her child never lived under shadows. Adrian still breathed, still walked free. But his empire was gone, and soon the world would know what he had done. Adrian still breathed, still walked free, but his empire was gone. The collapse spread like wildfire. One morning, the city woke up to headlines that shook boardrooms and stock markets alike. Corruption at the top. CEO fraud exposed. Betrayal inside Adrian Black's empire. Every article carried documents Emma had quietly prepared for years. Every witness she had sheltered finally spoke. The walls he had built with lies came crashing down in the full view of the world. Investors abandoned him. Partners vanished. His name, once spoken with respect, became poison. Doors that once opened to him now slammed shut. Reporters camped outside his house, his office, his car. His kingdom of steel and glass crumbled, leaving only dust. And in the center of it all, Emma stood tall. She didn't need to raise her voice. She didn't need to scream. Her silence carried more weight than his shouting ever had. At the press conference that sealed his fate, Emma appeared in a white suit. Cameras flashed, microphones pushed toward her, voices shouted questions. She didn't flinch. She looked straight into the lenses and spoke evenly. The truth cannot stay buried. No matter how deep you try to hide it, it finds light. What has been revealed is not about power or revenge. It is about justice. For every person who was silenced, for every voice ignored. This is the beginning of a new chapter. The crowd erupted with questions, but she walked away. She had said enough. That night, the storm she had expected finally arrived. Adrian forced his way into her office. His suit was wrinkled, his tie loose, his eyes bloodshot. He looked nothing like the man who once ruled over her life. He looked cornered, like a predator that had lost its teeth. "You think this is over," he said, slamming the door behind him. His voice cracked with rage and fear. "You destroyed me only because I let you live." Emma rose slowly from her chair, steady and calm. "No, Adrian. You let me live because you thought I was weak. Because you thought no one would believe me. That was your mistake," his face twisted. He reached forward, gripping the edge of her desk as if to steady himself. "I can still ruin you. I can drag you down with me." She leaned closer, her voice low but sharp. "You already ruined yourself. And dragging me down? You tried once, remember? You set the fire. You left me to die, but I crawled out and I built something you can never touch. The difference between us is simple. You built an empire on lies. I built mine on truth. That's why yours fell." His hand shot out, as if to grab her arm, but before he could, the door burst open. Two of her security guards rushed in, pinning him back. He shouted, fought, cursed, his words spilling like poison. "You'll regret this, Emma. You'll regret everything." But the more he screamed, the smaller he looked. The man who once carried power in every step now looked pitiful, dragged away like a shadow of himself. The guards locked the door behind them, leaving Emma alone in silence. She sat back down, her hands trembling slightly. For years she had dreamed of this moment. Revenge had been her fuel. But now that it was here, it didn't feel like triumph. It felt like release, like the end of a storm she had walked through for too long. Later that evening, she drove home. The city lights blurred past the window, glowing against the night sky. Her son was waiting by the window, his face pressed to the glass, watching for her. When she walked in, he ran into her arms. She held him tight, breathing in his warmth, his innocence. For all her victories in boardrooms and courts, this was her true win. He was safe. He was free, and no shadow of Adrian could ever touch him again. "Are you happy now?" he asked softly, looking up at her with curious eyes. Emma smiled. For the first time in years, the smile was real. "Yes, because we're safe. Because it's finally over." They sat together on the couch, his small hand in hers, watching the city outside. Towers rose in the distance, glowing like beacons. This city had once buried her, but now it reflected her strength back at her. She whispered to herself, barely audible, "The chapter of revenge is closed. The chapter of life begins now." And with that, Emma finally let the fire inside her rest.